Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Scott Luton, Greg White with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Gregory, how we doing?
Quite well, Scott. Getting a little of that sort of being in the sun with a hat thing going
Yes.
on. I don't know. It's that time of year, at least in the southern part of the U.S. It's that time of year, so we're going to start looking different, folks.
And pollen is starting slowly but surely, starting to be a thing of the past. At least it's not in the big tidal waves of it that it is, in the last few weeks. And that's a
Yeah,
good thing as well, Greg, right?
yeah, no doubt. Here on the coast, it dissipated. I don't know, a few weeks ago, but I know it's still going in Atlanta. But everything is blooming, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
the forsythias, which are always first, those big yellow bushes, man, that's how you know spring has sprung.
Spring has sprung indeed. Well, folks, we are bringing to you today the Supply Chain Buzz, where every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we talk through some of the leading news stories of the day from across global business, global supply chain, you name it. But not only do we give you the stories, we give you the take, the perspective, some context. So, and Greg, as always, we want to hear from all of our listeners. We've got, I see
That's a good
Shelly
idea.
and Helene and others. Chime in, let us know where you're tuned in from. Of course, we welcome your comments through the hour. Okay, so Greg, we've got so we're going to work through three stories today, and around 12:30, 12:35, I'm adding a timestamp there to put pressure on us. We're going to get into a question of the day, right? Greg and I
Yeah.
have been and the team, we've been working to bring more educational insight to the supply chain buzz. And today we're going to be talking about choosing that right advisor or coach. And it's so important, so important. So stay tuned with us as we get there. And we, of course, welcome your perspectives. Okay. So, Greg,
Yes,
before we
Scott.
before we get there, we've got some resources to share with folks. We've got those three stories. And before we get there, let's say hello to a few folks. So Shelly Phillips from snowy Colorado. Great to see you here today. Helene in France. Helene, great to see you. I think she's joined us before, Greg, hadn't she?
Yeah, I'd love to figure out how that's pronounced in French, right? El- Hélène? I don't know. Sorry,
Man,
my French is terrible.
you speak all the languages, Greg. You
I,
keep
s- I-
surprising
I
me.
misspeak all of the languages.
Sylvia Judy is back with us. Sylvia, hope this finds you well. I know you got a big trip coming up to reconnect with your
Yeah.
family. Looking forward to that. And she says her azaleas are in full bloom. Man, Ryan says greetings from Ames,
Ames,
Iowa.
Iowa.
You ever been to Ames, Iowa, Greg?
I think so. Isn't one of the gosh, this is so embarrassing. Is one of the universities there?
I want to say, yeah. Well, Ryan, let us know.
Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, make us look stupid like we need help.
There's
Um,
there is some kind of landmark uh, facility or site in Ames.
yeah,
I've seen it on TV before. So
yeah.
Gino is back with us. Old Gene Pledger from North Alabama. Hope you and your family are safe and sound. I know we had a bunch of storms come through. Man, terrible storms come through Mississippi and parts of Alabama. Iowa State. Ryan came through
Okay, there
for
we
us.
go.
We knew it. Knew it.
Well, a lot of people don't know where Kansas State, Kansas State University is. Being from Kansas, I empathize with people blanking on your everything in your state, dude.
Mm.
Sorry, I should be better.
Let's see. Kim's tuned in from Denver. Of course, she's going to have to connect with Shelly, a fellow Coloradan there. And finally, T Squared, holding on to Fort Force on YouTube. Good
My
Monday
goodness.
morning, folks. Bring on the nourishment. Hopefully, reverse logistics and RPA. Well, T
Not today,
Squared,
dude. Someday.
he'll be back. He'll be back soon. Great to see you.
Reverse logistics good, but difficult. RPA, yeah, everywhere. RPA is everywhere.
That's right. Should be a book or a poem. Okay, Greg, let's share a couple of resources with folks. Hey, this leadership is tough. Supply chain is tough.
Mm,
Getting through operationally the day is tough. We got you back, and we want to equip you all with as many resources as we can. Amongst those, Greg, is our weekly newsletter. which this week it drops every Saturday morning. This week we focused on 6 tools for doing it better. Very practical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Next time it'll be 12 tools for doing it better. I couldn't remember where that song stopped at. I had to sing it.
6 is enough. Wait, no, that's 8. Sorry, but 6 is still enough.
If I'm singing the number, 6 is plenty, right? But folks, check this out. Let us know what you think. Let us know which of these tools maybe you see the most value in. We've got the link to With That Said in the chat. And again, we publish it just about every Saturday morning, and we are approaching 21,000 subscribers.
Yeah, and if you're not reading that on Saturday morning, what are you doing while you're drinking your coffee? I mean,
right.
What could be better than this?
That's right, Greg. And hey, I loved last week's. Last week's we focused on your very popular supply chain commentaries, which you've been doing for it feels like a couple of years now. Millions of readers and commenters for sure. And I think folks may have missed a couple of those, so we made sure that our 21,000 strong family of subscribers to With That Said has that on their radar. Your quick commentary about your supply chain
commentary is that the aggregator that I was using to collect the news is going belly up. They're going out of business.
Oh man.
So I'm scrambling right now, and they've already started to shut down. If you've looked at some of my commentaries lately, they haven't had the photograph, like a cool picture with
right
it, because they're shutting down portions of their system. So I didn't even put one out today. And I'm scrambling to put that together. But I think what we're going to try and do, gang, I don't know exactly what the time frame is, but we're going to create a blog on our site. And it may not be a newsletter as much as commentary on one article, but we'll figure out how we can pull that together.
Definitely.
So hang with me there, gang. There might be a couple of misses here as we scramble through poor old, whatever it's called, paper going out of business.
That, and I mean, that's been a core part of the approach for a couple of years. So we hate to hear that, but hey, folks, you can't miss. It's must see POV, as we've called it when Greg White chimes in.
Thank you for doing that. I think we get so much valuable input, and frankly, I have kind of test fit a few where I'm just pulling it my favorite topic or creating a topic like I did Friday. About this conference I'm going to today. So anyway, we will keep it out there. It might be a little bit of fits and starts as we scramble to shift platforms here.
Greg, that's one of your phrases, test fit. One of your phrases is provisions. One of your phrases is
pressure test.
Pressure test.
Pressure test.
Provenance. Yeah, we're putting a Greg White vocabulary together.
Yeah.
All right.
I wonder if anybody, including me, knows what it means.
We'll see. All right, folks. Speaking of resources, we've got a free and live webinar, but you got to register for it coming up this Thursday. It's Major League Baseball opening day, and it's also live webinar day here at Supply Chain Now. We're featuring Coupa and KPMG, and we're going to be talking about supply chain agility in this continuously ever-changing world. March 30th, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Greg, should be a great discussion, huh?
Yeah, I mean, two great and enormous influential companies in the industry, and some really interesting discussions around purchasing and procurement and all that sort of thing. A very interesting take. I saw it on Market Watch today on why ESG is not more in the forefront, and essentially the bottom line is the incentivization of procurement reps, right? They have to get that 20% discount from whatever the agreed price was before it came to procurement, and they don't have a lot of incentive or any, maybe in some cases, to tackle some of these other worthwhile initiatives. So, I mean, what do we expect from them, right? Very, very interesting take. And I mean, we may touch on that and a whole bunch of other topics while we talk to the folks at Coupa at KPMG.
Undoubtedly. And we're going to talk about what you mentioned here in just a minute or two. So y'all stay tuned. Let us know what you think. And finally, Greg, International Whiskey Day is today. International
How did
Whiskey
I miss
Day.
that?
And if you didn't know, now Please don't judge my pronunciation, but it started in the Gaelic whiskey evolved from the Gaelic language and a word that meant the water of life.
Yeah.
And then that iski, something like that, evolved to whiskey, and it's been with us ever since. So, folks, if you enjoy, raise a glass to International Whiskey Day wherever you may be today.
Aye, laddies. And
What's
lasses.
yeah. All right. So,
Hey, Scott, one more thing. I know
yes,
you said one final thing, but
yes.
does anybody have an unbroken bracket now? I think they are all, right? They've all been demolished. What? I was literally sitting at a brunch, at the best kind of brunch ever, at a sports bar where you're watching, right, um, golf and basketball, and I
Yeah.
literally said as I got up from my chair, "No way, San Diego State beats Creighton." Turned around and walked out.
And now we
Uh,
know.
now we know what I know, or anyone knows about basketball. What an incredible! So it's Florida Atlantic, unbelievable game against K State.
That's right.
It's I didn't see the last game. I went to bed early. Was it Miami
Miami and let's see, Miami played.
and San Diego State?
Yeah, was it?
Did Miami win? No, I
Miami
mean
won.
they went through to the Final Four.
Oh yeah, that's right. Miami won. They came back to against Texas. They came all the way back and took it.
And okay, so Miami, Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, and who's for? Some else we totally didn't expect.
UConn.
That's right. Wow. That game that was over quick. They demolished Gonzaga.
They sure did.
They just ran away from them in the second half. Anyway, sorry, folks. But you can't really ignore it. At least here in the States,
right?
It's huge. It's unbelievably unexpected. It is the essence of disruption, right? And this is what we deal with every day in supply chain. But still, this has been sort of like post-pandemic, right?
Right.
One disruption after another. Just when you thought you couldn't be wrong again, here it comes, right?
So if your brackets are are standing on a leg somewhere, good luck to you as we enter the Final Four. It's gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So Greg, let's dive into our first story here today. We're gonna get to work, and then of course we've got a question of the day about halfway through the show. So I'm gonna pull up this graphic because Greg, you kind of touched on it. You let the genie out of the bottle a minute ago. So I'm gonna get your take on this. So then that's good. It's a perfect segue by way of bracketology. So up first in this story from the Wall Street Journal here on Supply Chain Buzz, despite more and more green freight options that are becoming available, shippers largely have been yet to embrace and pay for these avenues, right? These green freight avenues. So I might get this name wrong. It's Tim Schwarworth. I think I came close. Tim Schwarworth, CEO of DHL Global Freight, Global Forwarding, points the finger at procurement, kind of what Greg was mentioning. And he says, quote, if you talk to purchasing guys, they've got one thing to do, get the best deal, and they get paid for less spend, end quote. Right. The story cited a Boston Consulting Group survey that showed 82% of companies say they're willing to spend more on sustainable shipping, but evidently not this much more based on the delta that's currently out there.
Now, and what is the delta? Does this? I didn't see that it said if there was like a standard difference, right?
That you and I missed the same thing.
Okay.
It shared a couple examples, but it was less about addressing. I saw 2x, 3x is what the article used at the higher cost of green freight. So a couple of notes. So in the bigger picture, of course, the 60,000 vessel strong global ocean shipping industry is trying to find a way to move away from bunker fuel to other options like methanol in the next few years. The European Union is looking at carbon emission taxes as early as 2024 for ships calling on ports across Europe. And here in the U.S., the state of California plans on, get this, Greg, eliminating diesel-powered trucks from its ports by 2035. So, Greg, your thoughts on the challenge of using some of these green freight options?
like anything, we have to align feasibility with sustainability. We have to find new, different economical ways of two things: incentivizing people to do the right thing. If we really want them to do the right thing, their incentives at their workplace have to reflect that. And two, you have to make it practical. 2 to 3x in cost is just not feasible. So we need to align feasible and sustainable, right? They need to be parallel paths. And once we do that, and it'll take a while, it's like any new initiative or disruptive change to any business process. It takes a while to figure out how to do it. And we've talked about some of the some of the ethical dichotomies that exist, even especially in the E of ESG, which is environmental, right? Where we're scraping the earth of its natural resources, right, and destroying millions of acres of land to create batteries, or create more batteries and electronics so that we can use electricity to power vehicles. So there are a lot of challenges there. I 100% believe that they can be overcome.
Yes.
I have been in supply chain long enough to know when there were only two concerns in supply chain, right? Pay as little as you possibly can and get it here. End of discussion, right? Get it here usually means 100%, right, on time.
Yep.
Right? So 100% fill rate on time, but pay as little as you can. Pay very, very little, right? And we have figured out a way to balance those two things so we can both reduce the cost and increase service level, fill rate, whatever you want to call it, fulfillment levels. So I think the supply chain industry, which by the way is responsible for 92% of all companies' emissions.
Yep.
92% of a company's emissions come from their supply chain. And we have played this game of trade-off for so long that I believe that we are the right people to figure out how to do it.
Agreed. A lot of good stuff there at the First Church of Greg White of supply chain leadership. And ethical dichotomy.
What I'm passionate about is remember that unfinished business. That's it.
Ethical dichotomies. That's quite a phrase. Folks, let us know what you think, though. And again, we've dropped the link to this read in the Wall Street Journal there in the comments. And yeah, Kim, great to have you here back with us here today. Yes, we've dropped a link to this 6 tools to do it better, which is part of our With That Said weekly newsletter. We've dropped that as well in the chat. Okay, Greg, moving right along.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this topic. So, of course, we've been talking drones and the advancement of drones forever. Check out that drone, bringing some of your aforementioned TP to your house. Our second story is an update on a continued conversation that we've had here at The Buzz. As Amazon, yes, the big A, continues to struggle to find major progress with its drone delivery program. So according to CNBC, Amazon is still in the durability and reliability testing, also known as DNR, it's a big part of this, for its Prime Air drones, which is a critical regulatory hurdle. The feds and the FAA want to make sure drones can safely fly over cities, towns, and people. Hey, Greg, it's kind of important, I think. Currently, Amazon's drone delivery is restricted to 2 test markets: College Station, Texas, so gig 'em Aggies for our friend Tevin, Greg, Tevin Taylor, or TT out there, and Lockford, California. But, Greg, get this. Because they can't fly over homes and people yet, Prime Air is limited to reportedly very few homes. In fact, it's been reported in that Lockford, California market, only 2 homes can they deliver to, is what they allege. 10,000 drone deliveries is the target for 2023 for Prime Air drone deliveries. So, Greg, I can't wait to hear your thoughts here.
What is Amazon doing wrong that Walmart is doing right? I mean, Walmart already has something like 4,000, Scott. We just did an interview with their EVP of door-to-door or end-to-end delivery. What was her title? But anyway, they have all kinds of markets that they're in. So I don't know. I mean, Amazon, steal a Walmart drone,
right,
and figure out how to do. I don't understand what the challenge is, except there's one common denominator here:
yes.
California.
Right.
Why would you ever test anything? I mean, I know they're based there, but why would you ever test anything in the most highly regulated, litigious, right, and unequivocally inefficient governments in the entire union of the country, right?
Yep.
So I think that's probably a huge part of it. Uh, 2 homes approved for delivery.
Isn't that crazy? Um,
That's exactly the word I was thinking of, Scott.
and Catherine says maybe they can check with Catherine. She flew a drone this weekend to check on our rain runoff at our house. Oh, that's cool. I
I
love the
fly
new
a drone
applications.
out to the beach to see if it's safe to go out there, when
Yep.
it's tourist season. So
Yep. Greg, great, great to see you here. To Greg says, I find this hard to implement with the FAA. Same thing with flying cars. Man,
but
now
somehow Walmart is miles
that's right.
ahead of them. I
Well,
mean, I don't disagree with any of that, Greg.
yeah,
It's just, what I can't figure out is like I said, what is it Walmart is doing right that Amazon is doing wrong? I just don't
yep.
get it.
I don't have this number in front of me, so I'm hesitant to say it, but I'm 99% sure that Walmart hit something like 23,000 drone deliveries last year. And
Wow.
so clearly they are well ahead and have been for quite some time of its
Gosh, I thought it
the
was only
drone.
like 4, but I'm probably quoting a different. Uh, I don't know,
That
but
you might have been thinking of
you know what? Let's post a link to that
yeah, that's right.
episode. I think people ought to hear what can be done with these things. So
That's right.
let's post a link to that episode because that's a good one and it's super encouraging, right?
Yes, agreed.
Scott, I didn't want to do this while we were on the show with a
Okay.
Walmart executive, but remember the old days when everyone was afraid of and hated Walmart, and now that same furor is aimed at Amazon, and people are almost like pulling for Walmart, like the little guy these days.
It's crazy times.
It is strange how times have changed, but I got to tell you, I have been really impressed with their uh, being such a good actor as a corporate citizen. Right,
Yes.
that
Yep.
wasn't always the case.
Good point. And you're referring to an episode I think we're releasing this week or next week with Jennifer
Oh
McKinn
gosh.
with Walmart. So folks, check
Oh,
this
sorry.
conversation out. I think we're publishing it this week or next week. And Amanda, if
That's
you want to
right.
share
That's
that,
part of our leaders series, isn't it?
that's right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, Kim Winter is with us here today. Drones flying all around. Kim says drones now approved to fly people around Dubai. How about that, Kim? You got to share some of y'all's secret sauce, man. As Shelley says, that is wild. In my best Johnny Carson, that is some wild stuff. Wild
Wacky,
stuff.
wild stuff. I did not know that.
Let's see. Catherine says Greg is checking to see if there are too many socks with sandals tourists before he ventures out.
It's true.
Oh boy.
It is
Okay.
true.
So let's hit. We're gonna hit one more story, and then we're gonna dive into a question of the day. And by the way, Greg, and big thanks to Catherine and Amanda for helping to make production happen each day, all day. Wednesday, we're dropping that episode Wednesday.
Okay, great. Sorry
All
to
right.
announce that, but you guys keep your eyes open for that because it is so impressive what they're doing.
That's right.
All right, back to work. Sorry, Scott. Let's do this.
Quick public service announcement, folks. The next planning session for our Leveraging Logistics for Ukraine humanitarian initiative is coming up next Tuesday, April 4th, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Please join in. You don't have to give. You don't even have to talk. You can join and absorb and talk about outcomes. Over 600,000 pounds of vetted, targeted humanitarian aid has made it to Ukraine, Poland, and families in need in that region. Greg, your quick comment on this program, and then we're going to keep driving.
Yeah, this thing ought to be over, and it is an abject failure of the United States government that it is not. We could have taken out Russia in a matter of weeks, and we've been weak-kneed about it instead and spent hundreds of billions where we probably could have taken out Russia with about $42 billion worth of expenditure. And I have no doubt, by the way, that I will be talking about this topic because really intelligent people know that Russia is a true threat, not just to Ukraine, but to Eastern Europe. I'll be talking about that maybe tonight, but definitely tomorrow.
Yep, that's right. And Greg is speaking on a panel at a international event tomorrow. Greg, if you want to drop that, our team may have it. We'll drop that in the link in case folks want to check that out. All right. And then also, folks, join our efforts. Big thanks to leaders, true leaders, action-oriented leaders like Vector Global Logistics for driving this and making it happen and investing in getting what's needed to folks in need. I mean, they just incredible work. So check out the link. Again, you don't have to write a check. You don't have to say anything. Just come and check it out. All right. So
have the wherewithal as individuals that you can't expect from politicians, right?
Oh yeah. So true. So true. All right. So I'm going to leave Sylvia's comment there. So she's trying to identify who the sock with sandals tourists are. Let's keep driving.
She's in Charleston. She probably sees it more than I do.
Doesn't she? I'm sure she does. The holy city of Charleston, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's talk.
City in the world where you need reservations for breakfast.
Right. All right. So let's talk malls and talking about the continued demise of the shopping mall in our third story here today. So, Greg, Foot Locker is the latest to leave malls en masse, as Retail Dive is reporting that the retailer will be closing 400 mall-based stores by 2026. Now, Foot Locker is referring to 2023 as its, quote, reset year. And one of the things they're working on is a, quote, store of the future concept that the company plans to open in New York City in 2024. Foot Locker also plans to leverage its deep current relationship with Nike and is looking at ways to form a better strategy, one that's more effective and complementary to Nike's big direct-to-consumer shift that made a year or two ago. So, Greg, before you weigh in here, I want to share this with you. I went to my Leah Luton is not with us here today, I don't think, but I went to my mom and dad's a few weeks back. They had some stuff that had been sitting in their attic forever. And one of the things I found, Greg, was something I purchased from Foot Locker, I bet 35 years ago. Remember these K-Swiss? And these are the G-Stad men's low white leather. And they cost a whopping $60.97. I don't know if folks can see that from Foot Locker.
Are they in there?
No, I got baseball and football cards in there.
But
okay. a full
you probably sell them for big bucks.
That's right. I might share a few. But did you ever buy K-Swiss from Foot Locker, or hats or starter jackets or any of that cool stuff?
I mean, if you're a Gen Xer, right, you either worked at Foot Locker or knew someone who did, but you definitely bought your shoes there. Unquestionably. I mean, the referee jersey wardrobe.
That's right.
I mean, remember all the team in the store wore referees jerseys. So
right here, we see these two gentlemen. To your point, right here.
Oh yeah,
they're barely make that out.
Yeah, in the very bottom. Yeah.
So what?
So yeah, I mean, let me tell you something, Scott. If Foot Locker is getting out of malls as if we didn't know it, that is the death knell. I mean, there are literally malls where the only store open still is a Foot Locker, and because sneakerheads, and the culture around shoes in America, maybe the world, and certainly in like Asian countries and that sort of thing, but because that culture is so ingrained that those people were happy to walk through empty malls to the one store that was open to buy that pair of Jordans that they wanted or whatever. Yep. Right? Yeah, that's it for malls. I mean, Foot Locker is the last bastion of malls, right?
Yep.
And I think today, we've seen that you can buy shoes online pretty successfully. I think Foot Locker could be a real force from that standpoint.
Yep.
Nobody knows shoes like Foot Locker does.
Yep. I agree with you. In fact, the Foot Locker that I made this purchase at was at Aiken Mall. I'm pretty sure Aiken Mall, and where I grew up, and they have since torn that whole mall down and redeveloping the space. I'll have to get an update. It looks like Mom's is here. Hey, Mom, love you. We'll have to get an update on that project from Aiken, South Kakalaki. And Greg, final comment. As I mentioned, football cards. I don't know if this can make that, but this is that's Gaston Green, Shelly Phillips, Gaston Green of the Denver Broncos. This is from 1993. So we'll have to auction these off. I doubt that card is worth too much, but
I'll give you $100 for all of your Broncos cards.
Okay, done. And deal. Done. Hey, Josh, great to see you here. Josh says he definitely got K-Swiss from Foot Locker. Going to miss the environment, but such is the business. It's
It
business.
was fun to go into those stores. I mean, it was, I don't know, they just made it great. And I'm telling you, the referees, the workforce, whatever you call them, the team in the stores, they knew shoes.
They sure did. All right. So, Greg, that brings us to, looks like we got a couple. So, we got Shelly's a Broncos fan, and then Brian Birch is also a Broncos fan. Let us know where you're
They
tuned
probably
in
don't
from.
want the match along with the cards, do they? They just want the cards.
Probably not. All right. So, we're going to arrive. Greg, I'm surprised. We kicked off the news review, I'll call it, about 12:14. That means we worked that through in about 17 minutes, which has got to be an efficiency record for us. And now we're arriving, Greg, at our question of the day. Now, folks, as I mentioned, we don't do this every buzz, but we're trying to do it more and more. We've got so much wealth of expertise and experience here between me and Greg, and then other folks that join us from time to time, guest hosts or industry leaders, and we want to take advantage of that as often as we can. Now, Greg, today we want to talk advisors, consultants, coaches, because folks, if your LinkedIn mail inbox, I guess it is, maybe like ours, it's full to the brim with advisory offers of this, that, or the other. So, Greg, I want to start this question because, again, we want to offer up some thoughts that folks got to consider as they're, as they're engaging potential advisors or business coaches or consultants, and things they got to keep in mind so they make the best decision, because it's critical. So let's tackle it here from a startup perspective, Greg. Greg, you're a start as we've deemed you, hashtag startup whisperer, been there and done that. Dozens of times, if not more than that. So, as founders,
wait, don't say dozens, because then I should be a billionaire, and that would make me like a real loser.
so
about a half dozen times.
Dozen times. Let's been there, done that, half a dozen times, very successfully at that. I'll couch it that way.
Thanks for adding that.
You bet. Now, and I know that firsthand, not just from what you did prior to me being partnering with you. I've seen it firsthand in all that have brought to the table here over the last 4 years. So we know as founders and entrepreneurs the immense value that third-party experts can bring to the table, but you got to be selective. So with that said, Greg, what's a couple of considerations that fellow founders and entrepreneurs got to keep in mind when considering advisors or coaches?
Just a couple. Well, let's start with some key ones. One is they have to have experience. Only Tony Robbins, he's the only person on the planet who can never have had a successful business until he started telling people how to make a successful business, because he's almost 7 feet tall. He's got a deep voice and he's very charismatic, but no one else aside from that should be telling you how to run your business if they haven't run a business like yours. I mean, it's as simple as that. Experience matters. I don't know if you know this, Scott, but when we think about especially tech startups, we think about kids like I was when I started my first one, 23 years old, whatever, right? But a startup is actually 34% more likely to be successful if they have, as I like to call it, a geezer. So someone 50 years old or older as part of the team, even if it's only just an advisor. So, one is to value experience over everything else, value it over charisma, value it over personal branding. I can't stress that enough. Value it over ubiquitous content, right? Value it over everything, because it's very important. Like, for instance, it's very important that they've been in the shoes that you're in to be able to tell you what to do, and as importantly, sometimes preemptively, what not to do.
Right.
And you have to have that kind of trust in them. And an advisor relationship is also not a project. It is an ongoing thing. All the companies that I advise, I have been advising for years. And anybody who says they can advise you how to build and make your company successful or better in a project, Don't trust that. Don't trust that. I didn't even know how to say that, Scott. You know what I wanted to say, right?
Yes, I
They're
do.
lying. Of course, they're
Yes.
lying. I mean, they might even be lying to themselves. They might
Right.
believe that that's true, but they absolutely cannot. Um, but you know, I think that's really important is the experience, and don't trust branding. And also, you don't have to pay a lot. There's a ton of free advisory out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was doing Tequila Sunrise, I was just putting that out there because I didn't want people. I mean, one, it was a lot about what's going on in tech, but then it kind of became, I don't want people to have to struggle the way I did or that other founders have done. And there is so much of that free content out there. If you're, I mean, for instance, if you're a tech entrepreneur, I'm astounded by some of the questions that people ask me when they reach out to me to ask me to invest in their company. I'm like, God, have you never like searched YouTube before? You don't need me for this,
Right.
right? There's a group. They're actually investors in Boston, and their YouTube channel is called Dream It.
Okay.
And incredible, valuable information. There's also a company now. They have something to sell, but they do a really good job. It's like they have this really easy to use pitch deck compilation tool set. If I can only think of their name, I'll try to look it up. But anyway, get as much free advisory as you can.
Yep.
Right, Scott. I know you've had some interesting, and there's more here, but I know you've had some interesting advisory pitches and conversations, and you know, our relationship kind of started out as an advisory relationship. How'd I do? Did I do?
I thought you did great. And we've had, and look, folks, in all transparency, I've made some really bad choices at times, because I've fallen for that story, that charismatic story that Greg is forewarning us not to do. Right. And Karai, you're so nice. Let me share Karai's comment here. And Karai Koze with Gartner, Greg White and Scott Luton are key. Experience, been there, done it. Critical smarts, flexibility, ownership, know-how, digitized and adaptable at the same time, value, obsession, and client centricity. Man,
Wow,
Karai, that is eloquent.
thanks, man. Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah. We're gonna quote you on that, like on the website.
Right. And you know what? That's high praise come from Karai Koze, who's so engaged in the market and doing some really big things from a do good, charitable and humanitarian standpoint. So,
but I mean, look, I'm not pimping Karai, but
right,
that's somebody who knows.
That's right. Yep.
Well, that's somebody who has done it himself. That would be a great example of someone you could use as an advisor. You know, you just got to understand what somebody's niche and expertise is and what their longevity, right? The longevity of the relationship that they want to have with you.
Right.
Right.
So I'm going to share a couple quick things.
Do share, please.
And then Greg, I'm gonna get your take as well. And yes, Shelley, you're right. If we don't learn from these bad experiences, where folks take advantage of you, what have you, man, you've lost twice. So we all have to learn from them. That's what I keep telling myself when you know, we make a bad decision. But here's a couple things I want to share with you, Greg. Number one is your why. You know, you got to be really careful of seeking out a generalist. You gotta be really clear and think through and bounce off your team or whomever you trust, your mom and dad, maybe, what have you, of why, what are you seeking? What do you want to have happen? What are your objectives? And then once you really, with all the frankness and clarity, once you've got that question answered, then you're going to want to slow down. Right, Greg, you talk about be right more often, slow down, be deliberate, do research, do your analysis, right? Don't get all wound up in what could happen. Don't rush decisions. Don't jump into things, man, really slow down. And then once you've done that due diligence, right? You know what you need. You know that answer to the question why. You've done the homework, right? Thirdly, find a very small way. If you like Bob or Sue or Jamal or whomever, whatever the person's name is as your coach or advisor, find a small way to work together. Create a small, low risk, pilot of sorts so you can see their expertise in action, right? Get past the sales and marketing pitch you're getting. Give them, throw them a little piece of business or throw them a little project or something so you can vet them and see them in action. So those are three, again, commonly known, perhaps, pieces of advice. But man, had I done those three things earlier with earlier businesses and startups I've been a part of, it would have been a different story and different outcome, Greg. So your response there, Greg.
Yeah, well, I think that is a great way to do it. I mean, that is perfect. I'd say even augment that process with check references, right? I mean, I think we assume, right? We assume that, right? But check references, but don't check their references. Check references with people you trust and people you know. If you're looking for an advisor, probably the worst advisor for you is one that is pitching you. Probably the best advisor for you is someone who recognizes, Scott, as Scott said, your why, your particular need of the day, and says, hey, I know this CFO type over here that could help you out, or I have this marketing genius that could help you out. We're using an advisor now, and that was referred to us by somebody we knew, right? So that, I feel like you have to use your network. It's rare that anybody you don't know, have never met, and don't know anyone else that they know is going to be, and I mean really know. Let's face it. We all have 5, 10, 20,000 connections on LinkedIn. We don't know all those people, but
late breaking news. News.
But I mean, someone you really know. I think it's really important to use your network, your real network, to say, this is the need that I have, and just ask people if they know somebody that can help you with that. Scott, God, at the risk of having, what the hell, I'm going to say it. I would almost disqualify anyone who claims to be a business coach or whatever the catchphrase of the day is, unless they have demonstrable references and experience on their LinkedIn profile. Yeah. I would further, because Scott, my eldest daughter was a student athlete, and they have these people they call recruiting coaches. And what they say is they'll help your kid get access or get a scholarship at premier schools. And my daughter was a swimmer. Getting a scholarship in swimming is very difficult for American students, because we give most of them to foreign students who can't get academic scholarships because the grading systems are different. Anyway, so it's a very tough market, but she was a very good swimmer. And as they described what they did, they said, we can get you at Auburn, which is absolutely unbelievable, because if Auburn doesn't know who you are, that's the greatest swimming college, university in the history of the world.
Really?
Stanford second, believe it or not. Yeah. I mean, when we actually went and visited them, they don't have plans for how to get you to win the SEC championship. They have plans for how to get you to win in the Olympics on your home nation's Olympics team. That's how they get the great swimmers.
Wow.
They're that good. Anyway, my question to these coaches was, which coaches will sign my daughter solely based on your recommendation, right? So a similar question to someone who claims to be a business coach.
Yep.
Which business coach will do what you, which business owners have done precisely what you have prescribed,
yep,
and been incredibly successful? And I'd like to talk to them.
Yep.
That will end that conversation with probably 90% of the people that are pitching you business coaching right there, because they're not that targeted.
Right. Man, excellent advice. Excellent advice. Got to get past the sales and marketing pitches, folks. Even if you don't think you're being pitched, ask yourself, pinch yourself, and say, wait a second, this is a pitch. Because a lot of these coaches that are out there, and I'm not pointing fingers, but as Greg and I both have mentioned, there's millions of them, right? Unfortunately, a lot of them, and I've seen firsthand, and a lot of other veterans that are getting out of the service and there's more startup veterans doing startups these days, maybe than ever before. Unfortunately, a lot of them are going down this wrong path with these so-called experts, and they're writing checks from limited funds. Folks, be aware, be wary, be in the know. Ask the tough questions. If you think you're going to offend somebody, but it's right for the business, offend them. Ask the questions you got to ask to make sure that those finite resources that you have, especially if you're a startup, or switching gears, Greg, we get asked a question a lot about professional development. There's all kinds of certifications out there from associations, from universities, you name it. Folks, the same things apply here. Doing that homework. A pitfall I see all the time, Greg, is folks signing up for a program and having no remote understanding of the credentials of the person that will be instructing them. And folks, those certifications can cost a bunch of money. Ask those questions on front end. Those sales and marketing pitches are getting more and more in the certification arena. Be careful, be leery.
Well, it's going to get more. I mean, the economy is going to get tougher globally, and that chaos breeds opportunity for hucksters. So
yes,
be very, very careful. But it only takes a few really pointed, Scott, to your point, pointed questions to root out the fakers, right? And one of them is, send me 3. I mean, if you don't know this person as member is number one, and if you can't verify their experience having done what they're about to advise you to do, just forget about them. But let's say they pass those 2 tests, and they can't give you references that can glowingly state and unequivocally apply 100% credit to that business coach for their next level success. Pass.
That's right. Hard pass. And hopefully Amanda won't get mad at me. I want to share. I'm not going to name names. I want to protect all the parties, but Amanda, being a fellow entrepreneur, had a wonderful business idea. This is probably about 10 years ago, and found a couple of consultants that were offering XYZ for $10,000. $10,000. That's still a bunch of money. And we were this close, right? But we had some eureka moments that I'm so thankful that we had, right? And I think we avoided.
Was there anything you could share there that maybe would help? I mean, anything that just jumps out at you and says, "Hey, this raised a huge red flag for us," or whatever.
Well, I think if you haven't arrived, this is the thought that comes to my mind when I get that question. If you haven't arrived at your first iteration of a business model, and you're not at that stage yet, and you're still searching for that North Star, man, don't write any big checks. Wait, slow down, think through it, right? Because if they could give you a business model, they would have already done it. So that's the first thought from that situation that comes to my mind.
Well, and even Scott, a basic business model you can find on the web. Just Google basic business model, and you'll come up with all kinds of different methodologies that just make you think through what you're doing. And I think that's a really good point, is no one can help you build your business if you're not clear on what your North Star is, or what you want your business to be, or if you really even want to grow, or even to what level you want to grow. So,
but plenty of folks will take your money and take your check, and can, if they can sell you on the front end, they can sell you as they're doing check-ins of what they are supposedly delivering. So, and there's a good news, Greg. There's a good news, folks. If you're
was there anything else that caused you Amanda to step on the brakes and say, not this thing? Right.
Probably nothing I can share in a public forum, because I don't want her to break my legs. But you know what? Well, maybe we'll have Amanda join us and share more of that story. But here's the good news, and kind of from that and from some other situations, folks. Just because you're in maybe one of these bad partnerships, relationships, coaching ships, whatever you want to call it, advisory ships, it doesn't mean you're stuck for life.
Right.
So if if you look back, and hindsight's 2020, a great teacher, and you find you've made a bad decision, don't just keep going with it. Don't don't make it worse. Find your inner core and your self-confidence and call time out and say enough is enough. It's not working. And then move on in a very smarter and more deliberate and more researched manner. So, all right. So, Greg, I think we have beat this horse to death, but hey, we've been through it. And
look, the proliferation of business coaches just on LinkedIn, I don't know where, I'm sure they're marketing themselves on Insta and all over the place. It's utterly ridiculous. It is utterly ridiculous to see. I have received solicitations from children, basically, recent college grads, telling me they're going to help me with my next technology venture. And I'm thinking, one, what makes you think I have a next technology venture? And B, what could you possibly teach me? Right. I think this is, kind of this is one of yet another of the reflections of participation trophy culture, and that people really think they are that gifted because they read what's his name's book. What's the guy who's always wearing a stocking cap? Gary V. They've read Gary V. or are in one of these branding things, and they think just because they have a lot of reach from a marketing standpoint, maybe a lot of Instagram followers, that actually makes them an expert.
Right.
It just makes them well followed. And maybe those 1 minute snippets that they give you are all they've got. Chances are good. It's kind of like when you see a trailer for a movie and then you go watch the movie and you realize that everything good in the movie was in the trailer.
Yep.
You really have to be
right.
on the lookout for that.
That's a great analogy. And also going back to something you shared on the front end as we got into this here today, because it's very genuine from where we are. And that is, we want to help folks avoid mistakes we've made.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's been a big part of what we've been doing here for going on 4 years now, and thousands of episodes and conversations. Go ahead.
And that's a critical part of advisory. They have to. So Greg Studer just said, failure is a learning experience. I have an interesting statement someone made to me once that was also very poignant. But with that as a baseline, that's absolutely critical. You can't know what you're going to face. We can't know what another business is going to face unless you have faced it yourself. For instance, before I was a CEO, I couldn't give anyone, I could have, and I probably would have thought I was right. But you can't give anyone advice as to what being a CEO is like unless you've been one, because it changes your entire perspective on the business, right? And it's a perspective you literally cannot gain until you are in the seat. So there's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? And that is, the ignorant are always the most confident because they oversimplify the difficult and complex into all that they understand about it, which is very little. And the knowledgeable are always underestimating, whereas the ignorant overestimate. The knowledgeable always underestimate because they know no matter how much they know, there's always so much more to learn. So if someone is so supremely confident, ask them what mistakes they've made in the past. I mean, if, aside from all those other things, we talked about, ask them some of the mistakes they've made in the past, what they learned from them, what they would do differently. Some of them are going to say, I'll tell you all that after you write me a check. Hang it.
Run.
Yes.
All right. Let's see here. This might be Korah. I'm not sure. Everything good in the movie was in the trailer. Great quote, Greg White. Can I use it? So
I didn't come up with that, but how many? I bet people could name 2 or 3 movies where that's the absolute truth. I just saw a movie, a new comedy. Can't even remember it, but I was like, this feels like all the good stuff is in this trailer, and probably is not worth watching the whole movie.
Never. Catherine says we should all know that influence does not always equal intelligence.
Amen to that.
Well said. Well said.
Some people are excellent self-promoters, right?
That's right.
That doesn't make them excellent executors, right? Or advisors, right? I mean, I can think of a number of influencers they're really, really prominent out there who've never done it.
Yep.
With pitching theory and, and that sort of thing. But
Kim Winter, and be careful when hiring staff.
oh,
Absolutely. All the
yeah, Scott.
time.
And also in the comments, I thought somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they said something really poignant. That is, you don't always get who you sign up for. Like,
Mm.
Sometimes you sign up for Tony Robbins and you get some lackey, like
This one
second tier
here.
person because you weren't a big enough company or whatever. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So this listener says the one who pitched you the project is not always the one showing up at your door. Teams are often put together with the majority of the team to include junior members. So beware of travel and non-value added overhead cost. Greg?
That sounds like somebody who hired Accenture. Right?
That was Greg White. That was Greg White that said that.
You meet with some like executive VP and you get a bunch of kids fresh off their campus from Chicago who are still learning how to tie their Oxford shoes.
Oh, and Aaron, hey, Aaron's back. Aaron's been forever, but she's a great comment here. It's like having a baby. You don't know what it's like unless you go through it.
Boy, that is the truth.
Excellent point.
It's also
Aaron.
like having 3 kids. Once you have 3 kids, you're playing zone defense because you're outnumbered.
And I should give a shout out, Bill Stankiewicz. Great to see you, Bill. Appreciate what you're doing. I can't share the longer comment he shared, but he is on the front end of training our veterans for logistics careers in the great market of Savannah, Georgia. So appreciate what you do, Bill. We got to connect again soon. And I think that was Dee that set up here. Dee, I'm telling you, I see it all the time with these incubators here and startup advisors there. Man, they take advantage. They'll take veterans' money just like they'll take anyone else's money. And I can speak from my personal experience when I exited in 2002. If I don't know anything now, 20 years ago, I knew nothing, and I was much more gullible. And our veterans have given way too much to lose those finite resources they have to chase after their dreams and what they're here for in life. So, all right, Greg, you get the final.
Okay, if I put a bow on this,
please,
because we just got a couple minutes left. But what I came to respect many years ago was the people who have so much experience that instead of a solution taking weeks or months or even a project, they can tell you at least what the core problem is and principally how to attack it in a phone call, in a 5-minute or half-hour discussion. There are so many problems that are so simple for people who have done it one time and certainly many times before that are utterly impossible for you to comprehend. So find that experience. I'm serious. That is the most important thing. And find someone who will invest just a little bit in you, who will give, and I mean literally give some of their time to help you through some of your problems that you lay out on the table. That's when you know you found a good advisor. Don't take advantage of them either, because some will just give till it hurts and then they go away. But let them, they'll be happy to. The really, really good advisors. I think of Luke Smell, right? The digital transformation dude. Yep. He gives so much. Gosh, we haven't heard from him in a while. Where the heck are you, Luke? But they will give of their time and allow you to see some of that expertise. Still check their references and all the other things we suggested. But I think that is a key litmus test: is will they invest a little bit in you just because they care about your success?
Yep. Well said. Well said. And folks, don't talk to one, talk to 10. Interview more than one. Don't get sold down the river on the first one. Make sure you do your homework, folks.
And get as much free as you can. Go to YouTube. Seriously. Yeah. There's so much to do.
So I like Greg says, great closing statement, Greg, as if you're a powerful public defender or something. So I love, or Matlock. I'll call you Matlock. How about that?
Everybody close your eyes.
All right, folks. Hopefully y'all have gotten something out of this second half of the buzz. Again, we are baking more and more educational questions and content into the buzz. So we go beyond the news and go beyond the analysis, but take some things that maybe not on folks' radar here in the moment because it's not in the headlines, so to speak, so that we, again, help y'all avoid the mistakes we've made or leverage the expertise that we have here across the team. So, Greg, a pleasure. Really enjoyed today's episode. Safe travels to your event. I don't know if we dropped the link in the chat, but for folks, never fear. Greg, we're gonna dive in deep and interview Greg on all the key takeaways from this rock and roll event and panel that you're sitting on. So, Greg, bring back all 17 pages of notes, okay?
Man, talk about intimidating. I'm on a panel with a major general, a rear admiral, and an author of books on how to save the world from tyranny.
Man, okay. Well, safe travels to you. Safe travels to Donna Krejci from our team is headed up there. Capture some good stuff. Always a pleasure to knock out the buzz with you, Greg.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to bringing back some intel on all this.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for all the kind feedback and all the comments that came in. I know we couldn't hit all of them. Really appreciate y'all being a part of our buzz every Monday at 12 noon Eastern time. We'll be back. But folks, whatever you do, hey, act on this, the nuggets that you've gotten from Greg and I here, or folks in the comments, you name it. Take action, deeds, not words. And you know what? If it's not you, help someone else avoid making the mistakes that you know too well about. With that said, on behalf of Greg and the whole team here at Supply Chain Now, Scott Luton signing off now, challenging you to do good, to give forward, and to be the change. And we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.